It's Enemy Sidelines presented by Microsoft. My guest this week, New York Jets reporter Ethan Greenberg. Ethan, the Jets sitting at 2-8, just like the Texans. What's the mood like with the fan base? Would you say it's optimism for the future, or is it frustration with the losses? What are things like right now up there in your market?
I would say it's almost a mix of both, because I think what's frustrating for fans is that the team has obviously not done as well as you'd hope it to. Like you said, the Jets are 2-8, but the young players on the team are playing at a very high level, particularly the rookies. Let's start in the second round with wide receiver Elijah Moore. He had a career high 8 catches, 141 yards and a touchdown against the Dolphins last week, including a 62-yard catch and run. He's really come on strong the past couple weeks. And then let's go to the fourth round. Michael Carter, who just was announced that he's going to miss about 2 to 4 weeks with a low-grade high ankle sprain, which I don't really know what that means, but I know that it means he's going to miss time. So he's the Jets starting running back, and he started to really improve over the past couple of weeks. You saw his vision really take that next step, and Robert Saleh said these guys might be rookies, but they can't really be playing like them because they have prominent roles with the green and white. And let's go back to the first round. Elijah Vera Tucker has been a starter for this Jets team at left guard from day one. He's an up-and-coming player on this team, and he's been playing well lately. But the frustration comes in when you start at the number 2 overall pick in Zach Wilson, because he's missed about a month with a PCL sprain, and it's up in the air whether or not he will make his return against the Texans in Houston on Sunday. And if not, you would anticipate that it'd be Joe Flacco again, who started against the Dolphins, his first start with the Jets in 2021. And he had a good game. He threw for 291 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns. He did lose a fumble, but he really got cleaned on a blindside blitz where Brandon Jones, the Dolphins safety, came free. So I would say it's a mix between frustration and optimism, because it's a balance of short-term and long-term. But that, I think, is the mood of the fan base. And I think they're starving for a win, because that's kind of the temperature of New York fans, whatever the sport is, whatever the season is, they always are starving for wins. So I think that right there would be a snapshot of what's happening with the fans here in New York.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And you mentioned the frustration at the quarterback. The Jets have had a rotation of quarterbacks. So let's just hit the quarterback position right out the gate. You mentioned Joe Flacco last week when Robert Saleh announced that he was going to be starting over Mike White. You know, what went into that decision, and did Flacco do enough to maintain that role while Zach Wilson stays out with the injury?
So the reason why the Jets went with Flacco last week against the Dolphins is because Miami has to offer a lot of different cover zero looks, where it's a complex system that for any quarterback. But Joe Flacco is a Super Bowl champion in this league, a Super Bowl MVP. He's seen a lot of football, especially compared to the active quarterbacks on the Jets roster. Zach Wilson, a rookie, Mike White, who's been in the NFL, but his first start came in 2021. He was a 5th round pick in 2018, but he never played in the regular season. So Robert Saleh and the staff thought that Joe Flacco would be the best option, because what's going to happen against Miami, which we saw, they're going to crowd the box. You're not going to know who's rushing from where. So Joe Flacco, they thought, would be the best at identifying the defense and getting the ball out to playmakers. And I think that he did do enough to earn the starting job, assuming Zach Wilson is not healthy. I mean, it's been a question, one, whether or not he's healthy. Two, the other thing that Robert Saleh talked about is confidence in Zach Wilson, meaning, are you confident in your knee that he sprained, the PCL sprain against the Patriots about a month ago? Are you confident where you're not second guessing yourself? You don't have to think about it. You can just be free. You can go out and play football. What the Jets love about Zach Wilson, dating all the way back to the pre-draft process, was his ability to create off platform. So when things break down, he can go outside of the pocket. He can make something happen. And we saw that when the Jets beat the Titans, ironically, at MetLife Stadium. But is he confident in the knee? I think Robert Saleh last week said structurally the knee's getting in a good place. They worked him out pregame before they took on the Dolphins. They're working him out Monday, Tuesday, and then they'll determine on Wednesday whether or not Zach Wilson will be healthy enough to return against the Texans.
Yeah, Zach Wilson, obviously you got to see a little bit of him early on before the knee injury. What did you like about what you saw in him, and where does he really need to improve? But was there anything about his performance that really stood out to you when you look back on it?
So I'll start with something that I think he and everybody else in the organization would say he needed to do to take a step as a rookie. And that's, as Robert Saleh says, and I'm putting up air quotes, play boring football. So what does that exactly mean? It means you don't have to make the splash play all the time. You can just check down, and whenever the receiver's open, even though it might be a little check down to a running back, just give them the ball. Let your playmakers do their thing after the catch. And we saw that actually when the Jets beat the Bengals with Mike White, when he threw for over 400 yards, he just took what the defense gave him. I think, and Zach Wilson spoke to the media after that game, and he said, that's something that I can do better. And that's something that I think he will do better when he does return. And what's caught my eye, I mean, one, he's mobile. Two, he's a first-year captain, right? He's the number 2 overall pick. And remember, there was the whole debacle. Was he a captain at BYU his senior year? Was he not? No one knew what to make of it. Well, he was a captain from day one for the Jets, and the locker room really rallies around him. And not to mention just the arm talent. I mean, Zach Wilson against Tennessee, the throw that stood out to me is he rolls out right. He just kind of flicks the ball on the run. It goes 50-plus yards in the air to Keelan Cole, and that was a game-changing play for the Jets at that time. Later on in the game, Zach Wilson takes him off the fastball, and he throws kind of a lob pass to Keelan Cole again on a 3rd and 2 crunch time play in overtime that set up the Jets to win. So I think Zach Wilson has all the tools, right? We saw that in the pre-draft process. It was evident in training camp. It was evident in the first part of the season. The biggest step for him is just going to be playing within the system, which will then allow him to make plays outside of the structure and make those chunk gains down the field.
All right, one more quarterback question, and then I'll move on. But what about Mike White? He was such a fan favorite, threw for over 400 yards in his first start, and then gets benched after throwing a bunch of interceptions against Buffalo. Have we seen the last of him this year? Do you see any situation where Mike White takes the field again? It seemed like there was a lot of excitement around his performance early on.
Well, the Jets are very bullish on Mike White, and whether or not that means start as a starter down the road, like with the Jets, if injury presents itself, whether that means as a backup, I think that's to be determined. But Robert Saleh was very clear that the Jets very much believe in Mike White as a quarterback. They very much believe in him as a person. And you saw the reaction. You kind of mentioned it. The players really rally around Mike White, kind of like they rally around Zach Wilson. And the Bengals game was amazing, right? And I think when he played against Indianapolis, the Jets go 3 and out, his second drive, he comes in the game again. He leads the Jets down the field, and this was a primetime game. So everyone is really like, oh, what is Mike White? First of all, who is he? Second of all, what is he? Is he a good player? Was it a flash in the pan against the Bengals? And we didn't really get the answer to that because he only played 2 drives. Then what happens against Buffalo? Obviously, to your point, he throws 4 interceptions, and then then the Jets have the Dolphins that offer a complex look on defense. And the Jets brought in Joe Flacco for a reason. They traded for him before the deadline, and they wanted a veteran presence in this room, 1 to 4 guys like Mike White and Zach Wilson, 2 for situations to give them a chance to win on Sundays. And that's why Joe Flacco was in the game this past Sunday. So I don't think we've seen the last of Mike White, but to what extent, I think that's like kind of an 8-ball question, right? Like where you got to shake it up and you got to look in the future. And I think that's tough to tell because I think that the Jets really do like Mike White, but obviously Zach Wilson is the future of this franchise, and he was drafted at number 2 overall for a reason.
All right. You mentioned wide receiver Elijah Moore, the rookie. He's had 5 touchdowns in 5 games and just off to a tremendous start, no matter really who's throwing him the ball, no matter who's under center at quarterback. But for people that haven't seen much of Moore, what does he do well in that passing game? What really are some of his attributes as a receiver?
His best attribute is just getting open. He's really quick. And when you see him, right, he's not your, I would say, stereotypical 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver that he's going to body people on the outside. That's not his game. His game is he gets open in tight windows. He makes you miss, and he's got speed to burn. He runs a 4.3 40. The Jets really liked him coming out of Ole Miss. And actually, when they traded up in the first round to draft Elijah Vera Tucker, they were obviously excited for AVT, but in the back of their minds, they were a little upset because they were thinking, man, like at 23, we probably, maybe Elijah would have been on the board at 23 overall, which is where the Jets were, let alone at 34, where they actually took him in the second round. So the Jets are very excited about him. And he's how did Robert Saleh describe him? A jitterbug. He's quick. He gets open. I know I've said that a lot, but I think really what you got to be aware of, not only do you have to be aware of him getting open on short and intermediate routes and taking it a couple more yards down the field, he also gets open and he gets vertical. I mean, his first training camp reception was a deep pass from Zach Wilson down the sideline. And Elijah Moore, he's got a veteran presence about him. And I think that you really got to watch out for him on Sunday. And if you were to compare his game to somebody, I'm not saying that they're the same player or they'll have the same career, but this guy was a Jet years ago. Santonio Holmes is kind of similar. He's not your biggest receiver, but he's quick. He gets open and he just makes plays. And so far, that's what Elijah Moore has been for the Jets.
All right. When the Jets hired Robert Saleh, I think there was a lot of expectation that the defense would get better. And certainly as Texans fans and people here know, he was with the Texans for a number of years on the coaching staff. So with that being said, the Jets defense is giving up 414 yards on average, and they're giving up a league high of 32 points a game. So what is the biggest issue that's really ailing this Jets defense this year? Is it just a lot of young players? Is it chemistry? Is there one or two things that you can really point your finger to as to why this defense is really struggling this year?
Well, the defense took a step in the right direction against the Dolphins. But before that, I mean, after the bye week, the Jets were allowing an average of 45 points per game. And I think the biggest thing, which anybody will tell you, is in this defense that is coached or coordinated by Jeff Ulbrich, and obviously it has Robert Saleh influences weaved throughout. It's really limiting the explosive plays. And that's what broke the Jets this past Sunday against the Dolphins. Mac Hollins had a 65-yard touchdown. The Dolphins go up 14-7. They never regained a lead, meaning the Jets. So really that's the focal point for this Jets defense, is limit explosive plays. And what the defense defines as an explosive play is passing plays that go, I believe, over 17 yards or 20 yards, and rushes that go over 12 to 15. So those are really the focal points for the Jets defense. And the Jets lately have not been great against the run. The defensive line is the strength of this group. It's strength in numbers. It's strength in personnel, obviously led by Quinnen Williams. Then you think about guys like Sheldon Rankins, John Franklin Myers. One guy that I have my eye on, he's on injured reserve right now, but Bryce Huff was expected to return against the Texans. We'll see whether or not that actually happens. The Jets like him a lot. He's a second-year player out of Memphis who was undrafted last season. So I think that stopping the run and limiting explosive plays, those would be the two areas where I think, and also where CJ Mosley, who is one of the captains of this team, said those are the two areas where the Jets need to really tighten the screws, and then they'll be able to play a little more free.
All right. Well, this Jets defense will face Tyrod Taylor, who's going to get his fifth start on Sunday when the Jets arrive here in Houston. You probably saw your fair share of Tyrod Taylor during his time in the AFC East when he was with Buffalo. What do you remember about covering Tyrod? What really stands out to you about Taylor when he was up there with the Buffalo Bills?
Well, not only was he with the Bills, but the Jets played Tyrod Taylor when he was with the Browns in 2018. Right. And I think the thing that stands out is kind of what we've discussed in the past. Is Tyrod Taylor, you have to defend two plays. You have to defend the play in structure, and then you have to defend the play outside of structure because he is mobile. And the thing about Tyrod is that he doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. So really you gotta make the most of your opportunities when they present themselves, whether or not that is a sack in a one-on-one situation, staring down Taylor, whether that is a tipped ball, an overthrow, whatever the case may be, you got to make the most of it because Tyrod is a very smart player. And obviously he's experienced in the league. He's stuck around for a long time as a starter and a backup. And not everybody does that. So what stands out to me from what I remember about his days in Buffalo and Cleveland when the Jets played him is that I remember everybody saying on the defensive line is all they're trying to do is they're just trying to collapse the pocket so they don't allow Tyrod to break free, not even necessarily sack him. They just don't want him to be able to break contain and create a chunk play outside of structure. So you couple that with the smarts and not turning the ball over, and what I remember is him just being a very sound player and a player that can win you ball games. And more importantly, won't lose you ball games.
All right, good stuff. Ethan Greenberg, team reporter for the Jets. Ethan, thanks so much for the time and safe travels to Houston.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to Sunday.
Thanks for watching, and go Texans. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for new content.